in a professional setting, and this can be whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, or you're at a large company. How have meetings been affected in the past few years? What can we do differently to take it in a new direction?
So even before the pandemic hit, there were studies that showed that the number one cause of rage among employees were
Right.
meetings
Yeah.
to like rage, not boredom,
Rage.
rage.
I was going to say that it's such a choice word.
Such a choice word. Those researchers knew what they're doing.
Choice word. Yeah.
And and too many meetings and ineffective meetings, right? It was distracting us from our work. And so that was true well before the pandemic. The pandemic made it even more glaringly obvious, right? It's kind of hard to hide a bad meeting on Zoom, right? Like in person,
It's
you
being
have
recorded in many ways,
yeah,
right?
it's also being recorded. You have almonds in the middle of the table. You can grab someone on the way out the door. You can, pass. There's just so much else going on that at some level, if it's somewhat of theater, it's like, you know what? There's enough other substitutes or subsidies that's going to get me through this. On Zoom, right? It's a contextless space, meaning we create the meaning. We create the conversation. And so there's different moments of the pandemic that have kind of helped us sort through these various needs and problems. But basically, the first thing I think the pandemic did is I don't know if you remember, there was this New Yorker cartoon early in the pandemic, and it was like, I guess all of those meetings really could have just been emails, right? There was this kind of social pause in our personal lives and in our work lives where we just didn't meet. Like literally all meetings were just canceled for 2 or 3 weeks, and there were some emergency meetings. And then there was this interesting vacuum where organizations and companies and also creative teams had to ask, well, how should we meet? And what do we need to do collaboratively, which is a really important question. What
Yeah.
do we need to do collaboratively? When do we actually need each other? And when are we better on our own? I know comedic writers' rooms where they had to move fully on Zoom. I was interviewing one of the writers, and she said, we used to be around a table, and I could barely ever get a word in edgewise because there was so much jockeying. Now we had to temporarily pause and we all write on our own and then come together to share our writing on Zoom. And so many more of my ideas have come through, and all of our ideas are actually better. Right. And so that's one case in which in a creative process, these are really specific questions that are up for
Yeah.
contestation. Do we write better alone? Do we write better together? Like where and how are you actually tweaking this process?